Let's do the 15.4. Okay, don't read 25.4. I have no clue what Riot is smoking with this name. Let's do the 15.4 preview. What is Riot cooking for next patch? So let's see. Tank items. After an extended period last year of being quite weak and unsatisfying, tank items have found their footing in a strong way, especially for normal play, but also in high levels for some of them. A lot of tank items in these times were opting to things like Tormel's second item in particular, which indicated they don't really have any good item choices. Being able to opt into specialized items like Tormel's second sometimes is okay, but it feels pretty unsatisfying when it's option in most games. Especially when playing against magic damage compositions. Yeah, this is true. Unending Despair was reworked to be in this second baseline item to allow players to pivot off this foundation, and option is better. MR heavy, magic heavy, AP heavy versus physical. From our player service, champions like Munda, Kanj, Skarner, and Cassante, who preemptively use these items, are high on perceived strength, will be nerfed. From player survey, you're telling me they survey the league players, and that's how they decide to nerf Munda, Kanj, Skarner, and Cassante? That's so weird. IMO, Tamkench is not really a problem anymore, because they nerfed the Q damage a lot, and the win rate's not even that high. Munda, it's mostly a Loyola problem. Skarner is only a problem Master Plus, and Cassante, honestly, is only a pro problem. But I think like most of these champs are okay to nerf, besides, I would say, Tamkench, which I don't really know if he should be nerfed. Boots. We're also doing a small pass to the boot option to ensure they're better balanced. These and the changes above will also systemically help ADCs do more damage in most games. Okay. Steel caps in particular have been a bit too good at shutting down these types of damage. That's really weird. Like, my take is that like Tabai and Mercs are not that strong anymore. Like, I don't know. Maybe Tabai still is? I don't know. I don't know. Like, I play Syndra, enemy buys Mercs on midland, I don't feel like disgusted anymore. I'm actually happy they spent 1300 gold, because like it's just so much gold for these boots. But maybe that's just me. Attack speed gap, Kog'Maw has been pretty happy, so we're taking him down. Yeah, Kog'Maw has really high win rate, like 53, 54 with the attack speed cap. MEL, we are looking at some changes this patch to reduce her frustration by bringing down her range and ability, lowering the forgiveness on W. Now that players have had time to learn her, reducing her rank 1 root duration and making her R damage more dependent. MEL sports a pretty low win rate on her first game in particular, but after players have played a few games, this increases. Okay. So MEL changes were kind of posted already. I'll react to those separately. Elise is a champion who's had a dramatic rise in support role. We're not looking to sweat her out of there too quickly, but her jungle has been slightly weak, and we're looking to distribute a bit of power into that role without removing her from support. Personally, like, I'm not a big fan of Elise support existing. I don't see why Elise support should exist, right? Why she should be like having the argument of being like existing in support, but other jungle champions do not. I don't know. To me, it's just random. I personally am not a big fan of it. Anyway, so we're waiting for the numbers, which should come out today. So we have champ buffs. Ashe, no surprise there. Ashe was feeling pretty weak after Riot mega nerfed her passive. She also, like, she's not played in pro anymore or in scrims at all, or in high low matches anymore, because mostly she's just an ult bot, let's be honest. Her laning, like, her early game got hit so hard, and the champion never had amazing scaling. So right now she doesn't really provide anything. She's not good at like anything besides arrowing people. So I'm assuming they're gonna buff some of the damage back. Echo, even though Echo just, like, it's surprising to me Echo is getting above that quickly when Halo Blades and Electrocute just got above, right? And that did impact Echo. I guess they do think that Echo is still too weak. Personally, I'm also not a big fan of Echo existing. The reason for this is like, it's kind of hard to explain, but like Echo's gameplay is just very boring. Like, as a jungler, he's fine, but people are very frustrating to play against jungle Echo because you give him like a kill or two. All of a sudden, the champion is snowballing out of his mind. He's like one of the best snowballing champs in the game, right? From jungle. But on mid-lane perspective, there's zero fun playing against Echo because either he's strong enough to just perma-Q the wave until he's strong enough to just all-in you with a brainless combo, which is EQ. It's kind of like playing against Kiana, but in a way, Echo is even more less skilled, I would honestly say. There's just, like, you're not playing against any skill shots, you're playing just Q spam, wave clear the wave until he's strong enough to all-in you. So, like, to me, not a big fan of Echo. Gangplank, champion buff, Gangplank, that's fine. I remember Riot gave like a mini buff to Gangplank a while ago, and it did kind of nothing. Gangplank's good. I like Gangplank. I'm very happy with this. Chase, W attack speed buff was buff to match cap removal. W attack speed buff to match cap removal. No clue what that means. I saw that so Jace did lose win rate, right? After the latest changes. You need to have 187 AD, I think. For your Q to be a buff, which is usually 3 items on the champion. The thing about Jace is that I saw a lot of pro players and stuff on Twitter after the patch came out. They were like, well, this Jace change is just a buff because I'm going to be stronger after 3 items. But personally, I don't really see it that way. But if this is just that his W can go past 2.5 attack speed, honestly, I don't really think it will really be a buff to the champion. Nautilus getting a buff, very interesting. I do think that Nautilus has been outshined by Rel specifically and Braum and stuff like that for a long time now. Nautilus is not weak, obviously, but just that usually you don't want to pick him before Rel, and you usually don't want to pick him when Braum is open. That's kind of like the problem with Naut. I think the champion is probably okay to be a little bit buffed. Maybe we're gonna bring back Soul Lane Naut if the buff is too much. Rakan. So I already know the Rakan logic here. The Rakan logic is basically Freak saying in the patch notes last patch that we're giving Rakan a W buff, but I already know it's not going to be too much. So now they're just going to buff him again because the buff that they gave Rakan did like barely anything, right? It's like a very small early laning phase buff. Sion buff, this is just because Riot is huge fans of Lost Ratones, most specifically our top laner Baus, right? They gave him Queen buff last patch, now they're giving him a Sion buff. It is what it is. They just want us to win worlds. Teemo, jungle buff. So this is most likely because they took some damage off Teemo E in last patch. And I would assume jungle was maybe hit a bit too hard compared to top lane, mid lane, and support Teemo and low elo. So they're giving probably a percent there in the jungle mod on the Teemo E. And then Yasuo buff. Thank you, Riot. So super happy about Yasuo buff. I know a lot of people are going to be mouthing about this, but I've been speaking that Riot is honestly very unfair to Yasuo in my opinion over the years, because Yasuo was once upon a time perceived to be one of the most annoying champs and frustrating champs to play against, but this is no longer the case in 2025. People cry about other champs way more than Yasuo. People cry about Yon also way more than Yasuo, and I feel like Yon and Yasuo were kind of treated equally by Riot a lot of times when Yon is just straight up a better champ. So I'm really happy to see a Yasuo buff. I think the champion deserves it. Then we go to champion nerfs. Garen, nobody besides unskilled Garen OTPs can be complaining about this. Garen is just the most brain-dead champ that you can possibly face against. I'm totally fine with Garen being a good low-elo champ. I am not fine. To me, Garen is the equivalent of facing Malphite. And I just don't like when Malphite is ever good in high MMR. So I won't ever like when Garen is good. There's just his gameplay and the way everything about him is just so uninteractive. It is so disgusting to play against this shit. It took them a long time. Hui, totally fine with this nerf as well, personally. Even one thing that I did notice though is that on 15.1 and 15.2, Hui's win rate was looking pretty good as a character. 15.3, which is the patch we're playing right now, Hui lost win rate actually. A little bit less than 1%, and it's most likely because Electrocute got buffed. And I saw that most artillery majors like Zarat and Lux and Hui, they all lost a little bit of win rate on this patch that we're playing on right now. So I'm wondering if this nerf is maybe a little bit too fast, just because of this patch that we just had. But I think Hui is okay to nerf. I don't really mind it. You nerf Hui, he's gonna become too weak. Nobody will play him again in high MMR especially, and then other champs are gonna outshine him until Riot brings him back. I truly think that Hui, in order for Hui to be viable competitively or in high MMR, he usually needs to have 50% win rate at least. Right now he's on the verge of 50. This nerf is probably gonna push him down, and then it's just whatever. Kalista, this is another high MMR nerf. Riot gave her a little bit of a buff a few patches ago, where they made slows not affect Kalista as much, and she's been a little bit better ever since. That's probably why they're nerfing her. Kog'Maw, yeah, okay. Lulu, best support in the game in my opinion. Lulu is straight up the best support in the game at every single elo. I think Lulu is the biggest free elo in solo queue. The champion has almost no bad pairings in solo queue. She's good against pretty much everything. And even if you play with some character that doesn't have a lot of synergy, let's say you play Ezreal, It doesn't even matter because Lulu just like plays for herself and then she just like becomes like a poke mage in lane. She doesn't need to necessarily buff somebody to be useful. I truly think Lulu is insanely overpowered. The champ should be nerfed. So yeah, that's totally fine. And then Warwick top. This is in the same boat for me as Garen. Thank you so much for nerfing this. Even though I don't really face against Warwicks that much, but I see often like clips of people posting Warwick. Warwick is just equally as brain dead as Garen. And I think like the less this champion is in the game, or like the worse he is, the better the game is. Just like Garen. So, okay. So there we have the nerfs. Okay, then we have some champ adjustments. Mel, we're gonna see this later. Diana, I'm assuming this could be an adjustment between Diana tank and Diana AP. I don't know what this means. At least this is for jungle, at least probably a little bit of a buff in clear speed, I'm assuming. Twitch bug fix could be Axiom Arcanist, because it works on every ult auto attack. I have no idea what else. Then we have some system buffs. So, okay, what is Riot smoking here? So we have Merchant's buff, which I do think is okay. Like, I would much rather see a Sweetness Boots nerf, right, than a Merchant's buff. But, alright, sure. Maybe they're gonna make it 100 gold cheaper. Maybe they're gonna give it like 5 more MR. That's something that I'm seeing right now in my head, but okay, sure. Mercs are really like never bought anymore. They're like way too weak, so I kind of get that. Symbiotic Souls. What the fuck are we doing here, Riot? Like, these boots are so overpowered. People just don't realize it, so they don't buy them. That's it. These boots are insanely OP on multiple roles. Obviously, probably the strongest role is support, because you're constantly basing, constantly refreshing for wards. Good boots on top lane and mid lane as well. Jungle and ADC specifically, you probably can't really buy these boots most of the time. But these boots are insanely overpowered. I have no idea. I can already see in the distant future how Riot's gonna excuse this one. And they're gonna say like, oh, we buffed them because players didn't realize they're strong even though we knew they were strong. They're gonna go with like some sort of that excuse. System nerfs Abyssal Mask. I know according to stats, Abyssal Mask is the strongest legendary item in the game or something like that, with the Expeto site, like the win probability. I saw something like that, like one of the strongest ones. So Abyssal Mask is really undervalued by players. Fimbulwinter, also another item that never gotten, it hasn't been touched for a long time, because when Riot nerfed all the items, they left Fimbulwinter untouched intentionally, and now people like over time slowly realized, oh, Fimbulwinter is good, and then we had like the rise of this like builds of like people building Fimbulwinter on fucking Jax and Jace and this and that. Like any champ that can use a slow is buying Fimbulwinter, right, in a way. Even Veigar players, so even though they don't really proc Fimbulwinter, started buying the item, so that's fine. Fimbulwinter is obviously OP. Heartsteel got changed a while ago. I kind of forgot what the changes are. I guess Riot thinks the item is a bit too good. Plated steel caps. So Taba nerf. This is going to be probably a massive buff for plated steel caps is going to be a massive buff mostly for like some top lane matchups, because I feel like plated steel caps are mostly bought in like top lane 1v1s. I don't see like other roles buying them a lot these days. And then Unending Despair, another nerf for Unending Despair. This is the second one in a row. Item was just like very solid throughout like multiple, like especially if you're playing like a bruiser or a tank. Even like Galio could buy this on mid lane. System adjustments, Infinity Hatch. I guess we're gonna see what that is. And now let me pull out the MEL changes, because the MEL changes are nerfs. So let me just find them. Where are the MEL changes? Okay, here we go. The MEL changes. So the thing about the MEL changes is that Riot needs to act, simply because MEL is like 70% ban rate across every elo, across every server. So the champion is very frustrating, and because it's a new release and because Riot wants it to be popular and easy for players to pick up, it's obviously not a good sign that the champion has this high ban rate. So they're going for changes that are going to try to lower MEL's frustration so the ban rate goes down. And these are also nerfs. So cast range down by 50 and projectile speed down, right? So this is definitely going to be one way to address frustration on the champion, because it has insanely high range and the spell is very hard to dodge. So when you're laning against MEL, it becomes very uninteractive. W rebuttal gets 0.25 second less duration. This is going to not just nerf MEL, this is not going to also make it so you can't block multiple skills at the same time. And it's going to make sure that the MEL player is better at reacting when they're casting the spell, right? Mana cost goes up a little bit by 20, down to 0 again at later ranks, but this is also a nerf, right? Because you care because this ability is max last, so this is like a pretty big nerf for mana, and Mel already is a very mana-hungry champion. What? Bro, you see Bart? I'm getting trolled. Oh my god. You literally see Bart. Why did I swap? Is this guy serious? Okay. So these are all nerfs. Then we have the reflected damage also being nerfed, which I'm really surprised Riot is doing that. I personally never felt like reflected damage of MEL was so strong that it needs a nerf, but it's actually a late game nerf, which is also really weird to me because late game is like the weakest spawn of MEL. So like I would understand that early game this spell would be nerfed, but it's actually late game, so I'm not sure what's going on here. So these are all nerfs. Then we have E. Root duration on E is getting got at rank 1. Now at level 13 the champion is going to be the same, but this will impact I think ADC MEL specifically and support MEL a lot more than mid lane MEL. Because on ADC it's so easy and on support to pair with someone else to like CC together, but this will also nerf mid MEL, right? In return, Riot is adding 20 damage and 10% AP ratio, which is not a lot. It's an okay buff, but these are way heavier nerfs. And then the R buff, the R will also get more damage on the stacks late game specifically with 1% bonus AP ratio. So like no matter how you look at this, like these are just giant MEL nerfs. So I assume, I'm predicting ban rate of MEL is going to go down a little bit over time. The champion is going to hit new all-time low win rate. I think this is going to be more than 1% winner toss on MEL, and they're going to need to rebuff it. I legit think the champion will be horrible after these changes. I already don't see a lot of the shanked in the champion right now. It's so situational, and I just think next patch she will be completely unplayable most likely. And then maybe they're gonna leave her unplayable for one patch, or maybe insta rebuff her back up, because that's just how it is. They're going to have to give Q more damage most likely, because Q is just not enough damage for, or they're going to have to lower mana costs, I think.